Hi everybody, this is Comics G-Man here today. I'm going to talk a little bit more about political illusions of America. And I'm going to talk to you about a book that I've been reading on my spare time. A book written by a man named Larken Rose. And the book is called The Most Dangerous Superstition. I highly recommend you guys check this book out. I'm only going to read you some excerpts that I found very interesting because they kind of relate to what my videos were talking about previously. You know, my anti-tax rant, political illusions rant. Now, this guy, Larken Rose, we're on the same level of thinking here, but he explains it way better than I ever could. And I want to share what he wrote down here to you. So we'll start off at page number 76, paragraph number 3. As an aside, the existence of nuclear weapons is entirely the result of the belief in authority. Unlike many weapons, it is impossible to use them for purely defensive purposes. The only reason the nuclear bomb was invented and manufactured in the first place was because of the authoritarian, nationalistic, pack mentality idea that it is possible and righteous to be at war with an entire country, and that therefore indiscriminately exterminating thousands of people at once can be justifiable. Being a member of a government military requires one to contribute to anti-human acts, even if only indirectly, regardless of whatever noble motives the individual may have had for joining the armed forces. The reason is simple. Acting based on one's own perception and judgment and abiding by one's own conscience and one's own sense of right and wrong is utterly incompatible with being a member of any government military. Sadly, the result is that both sides of every war are wrong, in that they both initiate violence against innocents. At the same time, both sides of every war are also right, in that they each condemn the other side for initiating violence against innocents. In short, as long as there are soldiers willing to subjugate themselves to a claimed authority, and even to commit murder when it tells them to lasting peace will be impossible, those who fight for any government, even if they believe they are fighting for their country, can never achieve freedom and justice because a ruling class by its very nature never wants freedom and justice even for its own subjects, or it would cease to exist. However noble their motives and however courageous their actions, ultimately the only thing government soldiers can ever achieve is subjugation and domination. Many Americans are under the impression that U.S. soldiers are allowed to, or even required to, disobey any illegal or immoral order. A belief which allows Americans to imagine that the U.S. government mercenaries are fundamentally different from the mercenaries of other regimes. The grain of truth behind this belief is that the U.S. soldiers are, at least in theory, required to disobey unlawful orders. But the rule says nothing about morality. And because the rulers define what is lawful, ultimately the rule does not mean much. In combat, nearly everything every military does constitutes violent aggression, and nearly every order a soldier receives is an immoral, even if lawful, order. Whether it is to trespass on private property, blow up a bridge, block a road, disarm civilians, detain and interrogate people at random, or kill complete strangers, a soldier who disobeyed such commands would almost certainly be court-martialed. The idea that one should sometimes disobey orders, whether because they are immoral or unlawful, while fine in principle, goes directly against the entire concept of authority, and against the methods used to train soldiers to be blindly obedient tools of whatever regime they serve.